Good evening, everyone. We will bring ourselves together in this moment for today's discussion, beginning with our Mangalacharanam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. In the last class, we finished with a question about forgiveness. There was this question about forgiveness. We said we will continue it from where we left in the next class. Last week, we could not have the class. So we will continue on that topic, forgiveness. Now, if you remember, we had discussed about the values and the qualities that are liberating and the qualities that are more binding and pushing us into the patterns of struggle, which is called samsara. So this in Sanskrit, in the tradition, it is called Daivi Sampat, which is the divine qualities, and Asuri Sampat, the demonic, if you want to call it, qualities. Asuri means not divine. Divine qualities and non-divine qualities. Right? Sura, Asura. Daivi and Asura. So, in the chapter 16, 1-6, for reference on the divine qualities and what is the nature of the people who possess divine qualities, the demonic qualities, what is the nature of the people who possess demonic qualities, what are the demonic qualities, what are the divine qualities, how to develop them and all that. You can have a very detailed knowledge if you study a translation or directly if you have Sanskrit knowledge. Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, 1-6. That is the reference for this. Since Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Shastra, Upanishad and Yoga Shastra, just that one chapter studied properly with the right commentary, like Adi Shankaracharya's commentary, Kudartha Deepika, etc., that will suffice for you to have an understanding of that topic. There is also another text written by Shri Vidyaranya Swami, one of the Shankaracharyas before. It's called Durvasana Pratikara Dashakam. So that text is also very good for removing the negativities from the mind, various kinds of negativities from the mind in the context of a sadhaka, the context of a person devoted to a life into a life that is directed towards moksha, a sadhaka for that person. But it can be adopted for anyone. So when you see in the list of divine qualities, the definition of a divine quality is the divine qualities are the ones which are liberating, vimokshaya. And asuri qualities, the demonic qualities, are the ones which are binding, nibadnaya, I think the one which are binding, that will create bandha. So the divine qualities are the ones which lead you to moksha. The asuri or the demonic qualities are the ones that take you towards more bondage, which means, in other words, helplessness, lack of consciousness, more slavery to the patterns. If you want to understand according to our everyday experience, you can understand the more the things, the qualities that push you to be more stuck in patterns, reaction patterns, emotional patterns, when the pattern takes over your consciousness instead of an ability to exercise a well thought out choice in a given situation in accordance with the objective reality, that means that quality which you are indulging in, which pushes you into this, that can be understood as a demonic quality. Similarly, any quality that helps you to break a compulsive pattern and makes you feel a sense of expansion, a sense of relief, a sense of shanti, peace and inner harmony and equilibrium, and that gives you more freedom over your thoughts, your desires, your urges, your actions, your choice over actions, helps you to choose the right over wrong, helps you to choose love over hatred, helps you to choose control over indulgence in a easier way, that makes this choice easier. Anything that helps you to make this choice easier, that can be considered as a divine quality. This is the broad framework, or the yardstick by which you can judge any value or quality, the way that you implement in your life. That is very important, because when we say a divine quality, like a non-violence, because we are in Kali Yuga, divine qualities can be used as a weapon. An apparently divine quality can be wielded by a demonic person to cheat or to take advantage of the good people for selfish purposes. Like non-violence, for example. Now, this quality of non-violence, why I am telling this is because we need this context of divine qualities and demonic qualities. We need this context in order to understand forgiveness. So when we want to understand forgiveness, forgiveness comes under the list of divine qualities that liberates us. So before we go into forgiveness, we need to understand one of the unique problems of Kali Yuga in our times is a demonic force can come clothed in a divine quality. Like how Ravana came dressed as a sadhu to kidnap Mother Sita in Ramayana. There is a episode, if you, for those who are not aware of Ramayana, in the epic Ramayana, there is an episode of the demon king Ravana who comes and kidnaps Mother Sita, the wife of Sri Rama, the heroine of the story. And he comes dressed as a sannyasi, as a sadhu, as a saintly person. He comes dressed as that. So there is an instinctive trust, it is not only that, and now it is happening. So we know that any person who is dressed as a using a divine clothing, using a clothing in the sense I'm using it rhetorically, using a divine packaging to serve a demonic purpose. We keep seeing that, we see that teachers abusing students. There's so many cases we see in the paper. Gurus abusing disciples, mothers selling their children. These are all typical for Kali Yuga. These are all to be expected. So if you don't expect that, and if we are too naive, it is our mistake. The Shastras, the tradition has very clearly said what all can happen in Kali Yuga. So when we are practicing a divine quality, it is important to understand the divine quality in its perspective. Practicing a divine quality does not mean we become defenseless and we become naive and stupid and vulnerable. That is not the point of practicing a divine quality. There was a very famous person in India. There is no freedom of speech, so I cannot mention his name. So there was this very famous person who was a big advocate of non-violence. He is very world famous Indian person. So this person said, when the enemy comes to rape our women, we should submit without any resistance. If they come to kill, we should allow them to kill us. If they come to rape your women, you should submit without any resistance and let them do what they want. If all of us die, if they take over the country, let them take over the country. Maybe it is a divine plan, an order, a new order in the world could emerge. Like that he was talking. This is his non-violence. And that guy died a horrible death. Somebody shot him and he died. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, in the presence of a person who is practicing non-violence in the true spirit, in thought, word, and action, in the presence of that person, hostilities will cease. Just by that person going in an area, the hostility between people and things, even inanimate things like, even not inanimate, sorry, even animals which are driven by nature alone, which don't have a choice, right? Like a tiger and a deer, for example, they will not be, the deer will not be afraid of the tiger, and the tiger will not attack the deer in the presence of a sage who is committed to non-violence. That is what Yoga Shastra says, commentary. And we also have evidence of this. This kind of picturization we have seen in very ancient art. There will be a rishi meditating, and there will be a deer there, a spotted, nice, beautiful deer, and also there will be a tiger drinking water. Everything is peaceful. There will be a peacock dancing. This is a very typical painting you can see sometimes in old mural paintings, in this Rajasthani type paintings. I have seen some paintings like that. The depicting of this the sangha, the space around the saintly person. We also have in Shankara Digvijayam, in Sri Shankaracharya's life story, how he decides to establish his ashram in Sringeri. There is a place called Sringeri in Karnataka, in India. The southern command of the Shankara Mutt is in Sringeri. Sringeri Sharda Peetam is called. The Raj Shankaracharya ji established 4 mathas to protect the Hindu Vedic Dharma and to protect this Advaita and this tradition of wisdom. So in the west, he established in Dwaraka, in the east in Puri, in the north in Joshimath, and in the south in Sringeri. He knows what is all coming to attack this. So he wanted to create borders, a spiritual border, sanctuary for this wisdom tradition to survive. Right now, this is because of that, currently the only surviving original spiritual tradition is Sanatana Dharma, this Vedic tradition. That I generally that we attribute that to the great work and the grace of Sri Shankaracharya. So because of that, it was preserved, and nothing that goes against Sanatana Dharma could survive or thrive in this land. Nothing could destroy. Decades and decades of onslaught could not destroy the spiritual tradition of this land. Yeah. So the Shankaracharya, when he came to Sringeri, he felt a very divine presence and good vibes, like how we say, very good vibrations, and a kind of a serenity and a unique kind of a peace in that area. And he also saw a tiger and a deer not afraid of each other. He saw that animals are not afraid of each other. The tiger was not attacking, the deer was not afraid of the tiger. So he saw that kind of a unique quality. Then he did, using his Jnanadrishti, he found out, and he also inquired about the place. They said this is Sringeri. And he, through his Jnanadrishti, he found out that the great Rishi Shringa did tapasya there. That is why it's called Sringeri. So, and then he decided to establish his Dakshinamnaya Peetam, that is the southern command of the Shankaramat. action getting. So we have enough traditional anecdotes that illustrate that in the presence of a person committed to the non-violence in the right spirit, practicing with integrity, in that person's presence, hostilities will not be there. Especially that person himself will not die a violent death like how this person died. So this person was using the label of non-violence to promote complacency and what is called as carelessness, what we call as pramada. Pramada is one of the demonic qualities. So to promote that pramada and carelessness and fake sense of uh, uh, peace in the form of helplessness, a tamasic kind of uh, submissiveness and carelessness and so-called uh, so-called peace. It's basically a tamasic kind of ignorance-driven kind of passivity. Right, that is the word. Passivity. I was looking for it. He was giving a carelessness and passivity, which are demonic qualities. He was clothing that in the thing of non-violence, and then he was all the time advocating about truth and all that, ahimsa, and satya. But these are divine qualities. But when it can be, you can spin it out of context and use the label to sell something else subliminally. I don't know whether he was doing it consciously, or he was a British agent, or he was stupid. I don't know what he was doing. Whether he did it consciously or deliberately and consciously, or he did it unconsciously because he was stupid. We don't know. But this person was very famous, and a whole country, every major problem of this country can be attributed to this guy. This person violence. So he died a horrible death, and that shows that his whole non-violence didn't work, because it is the non-violence. He had no siddhi in non-violence. Yeah. So you have to be careful about this. So coming to the quality that we are going to discuss today, forgiveness is a divine quality, Daivi Sampat, a divine quality. So, why I should practice forgiveness? It is not for the sake of world peace. It's all there. But because you forgive somebody, it will not ensure world peace. Yeah. It is not for the sake of another person, giving them a chance to reform themselves. Because you forgive somebody's mistake, that doesn't mean that person will not commit that mistake again. That gives no guarantee that that person will change. You cannot say, I forgave you, why are you still the same? Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Prakritim yanti bhutani, all the beings, all the people, they are driven by their own programming and their own nature. What is the point of control, and why should you expect to change? So, if a person's nature is demonic, his nature is to hurt. If that person's nature is to, be careless and hurt people, that person is going to be that. Yeah. So when we forgive person, we forgive an action of a person, we forgive we understand the cause and effect behind the action. And when we forgive the person, it is not for that person's sake. It is not for anything else's sake. It is not even for God's sake. You can say, for God's sake, forgive that person. It's not for God's sake. No, it is for your own sake. If you want to say for God's sake, we can say, for the sake of you attaining God, forgive that person. We may say like that. A divine quality is something, when practiced, it takes you closer to godliness. So, for the sake of you attaining godliness, you forgive that person. So, forgiveness as a quality is practiced for one's own inner growth. We have to understand that. So, one dimension of forgiveness is not to have a doubt about the value of practicing forgiveness. This is at the conscious level, at the decision making level. We have to decide to practice forgiveness as a virtue, as a value, simply because it is beneficial to me. And I see that by not practicing forgiveness, by holding on to an anger, by holding on to a hurt, by holding on to a grudge, by cooking revenge, and maybe I take revenge. At least after that, I'm calm. If it is completely helpless, you cannot say that. But at least at the policy level, while teaching, we should say, if possible, it is always better to overcome that feeling, to take revenge and to forgive that person, to grow out of that compulsion to take revenge. Huge force, a constricting force that pushes you, that anger, it is tamo guna. So it takes over your intellect, it takes over all, then you want to do a revenge. There, we become helpless, actually. When a demonic quality, something like wanting to take revenge, we become restless, we become completely helpless, and we are totally driven by that. We are blinded to everything else around, right? So until that force is calmed down, we are not able to rest. So when we understand that it is nothing but a tamasic force against which I am helpless, then what happens? My freedom with respect to that revenge thought and that urge to take revenge, my freedom with respect to that becomes much more important than the revenge itself, than the outside result itself. This is an entirely different kind of thinking. This is how a sadhaka is supposed to think. A person committed to spiritual growth, inner growth, is supposed to think like this. These are the moments when you are completely overcome by emotion, when you are completely overcome by a force that is beyond your conscious thinking and discernment. But when a force takes over your urges and your passion, and it pushes you it pushes your thinking and actions, that is exactly when we need to invoke the light, the right knowledge, and to stay committed to our inner commitment for spiritual growth, which is a journey towards more and more sattva guna, a journey towards exactly in this moment. These are all the moments for meditation. When to meditate. You don't have to, you have to have that sitting meditation after your shower, and all that is fine. But the real meditation is when a demonic force inside us, a binding force, takes over our system. Instead of demonic, I'm going to use the word the binding force and the liberating force. So when a binding force takes over our system, our energies, our emotions, our thinking, and our force of action, when it takes over that, it is very important to observe and see the nature of it, and see what is it pushing me towards, what am I getting out of it. Let us say this is satisfied. Now, what am I getting out of it? Is it just is it just, the revenge force is there, I take revenge, I hold a grudge, then I take revenge, and after I have taken revenge, that force calms down, I don't have that urge to take revenge anymore. Okay, but does it stop there? What are the residual effects around? What are the side effects? What are the residual effects on my system, in my uh, what is its effect on me? Sometimes, revenge is justified. If it is too much, it is better to go through the process. But at least at some point, one has to be free of it. Yeah. But what happens is it leaves you with an impression where you are reinforcing that pattern. Every time you are hurt, you want to take revenge. It's a tamasic vritti, a modification of our ego driven by tamoguna. Now, the more we are under its grip, the less we are free and the more difficult it becomes for us to exercise viveka, vairagya, and go towards atmalabha. No, so you are losing the infinite wealth of the free, enlightened self for some simple, silly thing, which is part of this world, which is an illusion. So why should why should something that does not add anything to life? For example, when you want to take revenge, what happens? Does it does it contribute anything positive either to the world or to yourself? This question we can ask myself, yourself, oneself. When you have a grudge or an anger, the alternate forgiveness. If I am not going to forgive, what is the alternative? I can either hold the grudge. In some cases, if the grudge is against the government or some big politician and all that, like these huge asuras who are everywhere, I can't do anything. I'm helpless, right? I'm helpless. So if I hold that grudge, that person is living nicely, having a great life. Probably you can curse the person, that person will go, his generations will get affected and all that, fine. But what are you getting out of it? Every time you hold that grudge, every time you invoke that revenge thought or that grudge, every time you indulge that hurt, it is you who are suffering first. It is you who are helpless with respect to dharmic thinking. You are not able to invoke dharmic thinking. We are not able to think in a way that is beneficial for us and for everyone. We are experiencing helplessness. We are experiencing a constriction. Every time one of these, the alternative to forgiveness is that holding the grudge or hurt or anger, you experience a constriction. It's not a pleasant sensation. But consider the alternative, which is forgiveness. Suppose, you don't have to forgive big hurt. Let's take a small example. Some child is running around and spilled a hot chocolate on your new sari or dhoti. Right? You may jump, you may yell a bit, and after that, can you hold a grudge against that child? You may be careful when the child is around the next time, but it is not possible to hold a grudge against the child. This kid. No, you may joke about it. Hey, you threw the hot chocolate. Every time you see the kid, you can tease. It can become a family joke. But you don't really hold a grudge. You cannot hold a grudge against a child. He just was running around. It's a child. So he threw the hot chocolate on your sari or whatever. So it's okay. When you carry a baby, nowadays all the babies are having diapers. In those days when I was a kid, carrying a baby is a nightmare. You don't know when the baby will, empty its bowel on you. So it's a complete nightmare. If it does something, you have to forgive. You cannot be angry with the child. You can be angry with the situation, but you cannot be angry with the child. You cannot hold a grudge against the child because there is not even a necessity to forgive, right? Because there is no need to forgive. There is no grudge at all. So there is no forgiving the child. Question of forgiving the child because there is no grudge at all. So that is the highest thing. When you are full of love and complete acceptance of reality, like a Jivan Mukta will not forgive anybody because he has no grudge, right? So when you are totally free in your heart, the question of forgiveness itself does not arise. But in a small situation, let us say some guy, while going, he bumped into you, and you are a woman. You feel irritated, annoyed. You have all the stories of people, uh, ill-treating women in the public transport, etc. Then you are turning to slap that fellow, and then you find out that that person is visually challenged. The person is blind; he cannot see, and he says, "Oh, sorry, sorry, madam. Sorry, sir, madam, whoever it is." He's not able to see who it is, and then they say, "You say it's okay, it's okay," and then you give more space to that person and you move away. But the moment you realize that person is visually challenged, you see the cause effect relationship. The action did not come from a deliberate intention. You understand that person's helplessness. I am extending it one more. You may ask, so what about people who intentionally hurt you? I am coming to that. Now, this person is visually blind and he could not see you. And because of that, this person rubbed against you in a wrong way without his knowledge, without realizing. And then you forgive the person. Because you understand the cause effect, because you appreciate and empathize with the helplessness from which he committed this mistake. Correct? This error. The small thing. Anybody can do this. Now we will come to the case. Just extend the same courtesy to people who have deliberately hurt you. You understand that person wanted to hurt you and the person hurt you. There are people who are very sadistic, you see these teenagers, they in the schools and all that, not in India so much, our kids are angels compared to the kids in the Western countries. I have, we see constantly and hear about kids bullying. There are these bullies in the class who bully the weak kids, the nerds, the innocent looking children who are more intellectually oriented. They show in every series and everything. So they have a kind of a vicarious pleasure in torturing a weak person. We can see that especially in boys, in very young boys, this tendency can be seen. Very demonic nature, this. Not all kids are like that. There are some kids who are like that. That shows their quality, that level of the soul. Do not say that I am judging a kid. Of course, you have to judge a kid. All kids are not same. There are demonic birth and there are divine births. So that is a fact of life. But anyway, so we see that. So we see there are people who are capable of hurting somebody else simply for the sake of a vicarious pleasure. That kind of people do exist. We have to understand that this is reality. This kind of people are part of the world. There are people who simply take pleasure in another person's suffering. These psychopathic people do exist. Though they are a very small minority, thank God, but they do exist. Right? This is an extreme case. Now, there are these in-between cases who are not psychopaths, but they are helpless. They are stuck in their own world. They are stuck in their own desires, in their own patterns. Everybody is stuck in their own pattern. So because of their own habit pattern, they did something that hurt you. It could also be because of your own expectation that is not in line with the person's reality. That person did something, then you got hurt, you have a grudge or you are angry, right? Now, just like how the example of forgiving that blind person, that visually challenged person. Now see, this person is intellectually blind. This person is blind in the mind. If this person was very aware that this is going to hurt you, and he was very aware that what he is doing is not appropriate, would that person have done this? In many cases, in most cases, most well-meaning people would not have done that. Yeah. So we understand the person's helplessness. We empathize with respect to that person's helplessness regarding their own patterns, their own habits, and their own compulsions, and their own ignorance, because everybody's knowledge is limited. They are helpless with respect to their limited knowledge. They are helpless with respect to their knowledge of what affects you and how things affect you. They are helpless with respect to their choice over action. They are pushed into action because of their own slavery to their own desires and patterns and habits. And then there is this karma and all kinds of, you can keep on adding layer and layer of complication, because of which the person was completely helpless with respect to doing whatever they did. So when I completely empathize with their helplessness and their choicelessness, then I understand the cause effect relationship between that nature, what happened and what caused it. Then I remove that person from the equation. then I just only see causes and conditions because of which a certain event happened. And because of my attitude towards that event and because of my own helplessness, I got hurt. When I see all this, then there is no justification or context for me to hold a grudge against that person. So, when I am ready to forgive that person, it allows me the space to see things as they are. I am not, the moment I forgive, because when I am driven by the grudge, when I am driven by the anger, I will not be able to see the causes and conditions. I will not be able to see the reality of the situation objectively, the cause effect relationship objectively. I will not be able to appreciate the reality because my mind is not available. So, what happens is, I see that holding the grudge helps nobody, but forgiveness is a divine quality, and forgiveness is going to help me be free and be more relaxed. And that is the only way in which I can save myself from the torment of this hurt and anger that I am suffering inside me. So, because of that, I am forgiving that person. And then I also say, okay, he was also probably helpless. Maybe he didn't mean it. So everybody is helpless with respect to things. So, because of that, I will forgive him. I will not, him or her, I will not hold the grudge against that person. I forgive you. Mentally, you visualize, you say, I forgive you for this. I forgive you. And I let go of this situation. So, every time that memory comes, you have to invoke this attitude of forgiveness. And then our mind opens to the possibility of understanding why something happened, what caused that situation. And then we see things in their perspective, in their place, and we are more tuned to reality. And the anger or the grudge cannot arise again, right? So then the moment you say, I forgive, you can feel a sense of relief in your heart, from solar plex and above, that expansion. That contraction that you feel out of the grudge or anger will release. And you will feel a sense of relief and a relaxation and a sense of expansion. The moment you forgive a person, immediately the result of forgiveness, you experience the joy of forgiving someone. It expresses as that freedom and expansion inside you instantly. Instantly you experience the benefit, right? So even if you have tried it in small things, you can extrapolate it to big things. So you understand that forgiveness works excellently for your own welfare. When you understand that, you develop a value for forgiveness. You develop a liking for this practice of forgiveness, right? So every time you have whatever you are angry towards, like I practiced it myself and it was very useful. For example, when going on the road, I used to get very irritated with this auto rickshaw guys, or this very bully like driving of this buses and lorries, or some people just crossing, jaywalking. I used to get very irritated because it's like such a chaos on the road, and it's it completely unsettles you when you're driving or riding a bike or driving a car. Very annoying. And then they keep honking. Every time there is a green signal, people will honk. The rest of the world, the moment there is a green signal, people will move. But in India, they will honk. I don't know who started that. The moment there is green signal, everybody will honk. Why can't they wait for 2-3 seconds? It's very annoying quality. But then I see one guy who is a car who is driving in a very completely crazy manner. I get annoyed, and then I look, oh, it's a taxi guy. Then I look who is driving. It's an illiterate or some taxi driver. You're looking at the person, you see how unconscious he is. And then I don't expect him to have civic sense, because I expect that person to have civic sense, I feel anger that he is not expressing civic sense. He is not showing any kind of civility and he's behaving like a brute on the road. Now, when I look at that person, I understand it is wrong for me to expect civic sense from that person. So I have to make sure I am not hit by that guy. So I forgive him. He is like that because of so many reasons. God knows what he's going through. Or if the person is very okay, if the person looks, very educated and all that, still they go like that. A lot of IT guys are, I have seen them. They are very, very arrogant. When you go in this, there are these areas called the IT belt in Chennai, in Bangalore. There are a lot of youngsters. They are very educated guys, but they are so asuric in the way they behave and they move around and they do things. It's because of the stress. So when I look at them, I say, okay, IT guy, full of stress, and they are not any elite mind, especially those when those BPOs came in those years. That is the first time they're exposed to that lifestyle and everything. There is no proper sleep. There is no proper food, and they have a lot of money. Their mind is not in one place, and they have a lot of money, so they get gadgets, they get bikes, and they go around, and they have bad habits. They don't know how to enjoy their freedom. So the mind is totally out of place. So because of that, they have a certain kind of behavior. They don't care. That complete I don't care attitude. That shows in every move they do. So I used to get very angry with that. So then I saw that when I said, okay, so this is not helping me in any way. So I have to learn to forgive. So I started practicing forgiveness. And then once I started practicing forgiveness, it was very easy to be very relaxed and focus on what I have to do. And I'm completely available for the reality of the moment. Where, if I have to avoid that lane or that person, or I have to wait for that guy to go, I am not here in any position to reform that person. I am not a social reformer here, taking an avatar to change the world. The world is going to go in its own trajectory. I realize all that, and then I just, I focus on what I have to do. And I focus on how I should not get irritated or angry. And I started practicing forgiveness. It helped me to develop a great level of empathy and, accommodating an attitude that accommodates and accepts the situation as it is and people as they are. And that allows me to function with more empathy, more kindness, and more acceptance. And it develops a more sattvic temperament in my system. So when I go through that journey on the road and come back home, I am more available for the things that I'm supposed to do, my study or my sadhana or whatever. My system is more available for that. There is less adrenaline pumping around. There is less cortisol in my system. So I am more relaxed and I am able to meditate and I'm able to settle down in my japa much faster. So I said, okay, so I am the beneficiary here. I'm not able to change them, but I can change myself. So it was very useful. It's a very simple thing. I never used to, the things were really easy for me. My problem was this everyday stuff. This everyday stuff is still a problem. But when you practice these qualities, it helps a lot. So many people may be very good in everyday things, but they have a problem when it comes to deep stuff in life, like emotional issues or somebody cheating on them or, someone not living up to expectations. And you have invested heavily on your children, that your children must become like this or whatever. They should marry like this. They should go down. You dream about your children growing up and becoming in a certain way. They end up in some other way that you don't want, but they are happy. Then you make up your mind they're happy or whatever. But still, so you may not be able to forgive certain things. Generally, as a parent, it is easier to forgive. But as a teenager, to forgive your parent might be difficult. So if you are a teenager or if you are a young person, if you are not able to, if you have a huge anger about something that your parents did or somebody else, your peers or your friends did to you, it is very difficult to let go of that and to forgive, simply because Rajoguna is predominant in a young person. Old people are, it's easy for older people to forgive the young. But young people to forgive others, it's much more difficult. It's simply because Rajoguna is predominant. So we will have to understand that. I'm not able to do this because I'm young, I have too much Pitta, I have too much Rajoguna, and because of that, it is difficult. One has to understand that. And then, no, we don't completely assume what we feel in this moment. Right now, what I'm feeling, that need not be right. No, I feel very strongly that I should take revenge. Just because I feel it, it need not be right. So we put a question mark. We become skeptical about our own feelings. This is very, very important, because nowadays there is a lot of talk about doing what you feel. See, accepting your feelings is different. Accepting your feelings means you are totally available to investigate what you are feeling at this moment. You are not creating a conflict. You are not struggling against your natural feeling. So you are accepting what you are feeling naturally. Means you are available to feel that. You are not struggling against that, but at the same time, you are not allowing yourself to be driven by what you feel. So this gives us the space to question the validity of what we are feeling. So this is extremely important for youngsters, because once an emotion or a feeling comes, it completely takes over your system, because your system is designed right now. The prakriti, the design of the system is like that. Sorry. Sorry. The combination, the vada, pitta, kapha, sattva, rajas, tamas, the whole the body's nature in a young age is predominantly rajoguna, because that is necessary for accomplishing the goals of life. So that is absolutely fine. That is the nature of youth. Rajoguna is the predominant in youth. So that is all right. But we can develop a sattvic intellect. We can develop a more objective attitude towards us, and we don't have to do something because we feel it. This is a very important trait that every youngster should cultivate. When or even those who are young at heart, very passionate people, they have to cultivate this, to put a question mark on the validity of what you are feeling right at this moment, especially when you feel it very strong. And we have to subject it to an analysis according to what is right and what is wrong, according to an objective standard of what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. So the very fact that I find it impossible to forgive that person is reason enough for you to somehow find a way to forgive that person. So one of the things that can help is, when regard to close persons with whom you are interacting often, one of the things is, think of any one act, even, it can be the silliest of things, doesn't matter. Any one positive, good act that person did towards you. There is a Tirukkural, it says, even when a person is doing something harmful to you, like so bad, like, which can be compared to killing you, Kondranna inna seinam. It's if they do something bad to you, that is as though like killing you, even to that level of intense, some a bad action towards you, they did something. If you are able to remember that one good action they did for you, just have to remember that and see that person through the light of that memory, that good memory you had with that person. This action will lose its impact. This negative action they did towards you will lose its impact. So this is the second aspect of forgiveness. The first aspect is you will have to decide to forgive. That is the conscious decision. So we have two aspects of mind. One is the conscious, willful mind driven by buddhi. Another is the habitual mind, which is called chitta, which is driven by memories and impressions. Yeah, samskara, vasana, and smriti, memory driven natural mind. And we have the conscious thinking driven buddhi, or the conscious mind. right? Willful mind. So first, at the willful conscious level, I have to decide to forgive. There is no choice with respect to forgiveness, practice of forgiveness, because there is no better option. Revenge or anger or hatred is not a better option than forgiveness. Forgiveness is the best option. I am convinced about it. So I have no doubt that I should practice forgiveness. So I have to arrive at this clarity first. This is for the conscious mind. Now comes the practice. When I am dealing with this natural mind, this unconscious, subconscious mind, even though I have decided to practice forgiveness, something in me will not let go. Something in me will keep brewing that anger. Something in me will keep sustaining that hurt. Something in me will keep cooking up that revenge intention in the background. It's like a little stove, little boiling soup in the background, in the around your chest or solar plexus, or that it comes from there somewhere deep inside. I feel this, or so that force. What I have to do is I have to observe that force. Then that is where to deal with that inner force that is more unconscious. It is not, I have decided to forgive, but still that force of anger or hatred or revenge thought, or that grudge, it keeps coming up. What do I do? This is the second aspect of forgiveness. This is where the techniques come into play, and one of the main techniques is just think of one good thing that person did. Just meditate on that. Try to see that person again and again through the light of this one good action they did to you. They may not have done to you, but they might have done to somebody else. You know, like there is this creature called hyena. It's very ugly. Nobody likes to look at a hyena. Usually, it's not so graceful and dignified like a lion or a tiger. It doesn't have that grace. It looks terrible. The hyena is one of the pathetic looking. And it also looks very mean. When you look at the hyena, it looks mean. Generally, just look at it. That is my impression. But when I looked at the hyena, what a wonderful mother it is. You look at the hyena, the way it protects and treats its puppies, the way the hyenas stick together as a pack, and the way, if you see the hyena as a mother, is amazing. One of the best mothers in the animal kingdom is hyena. So you see that creature as a fantastic mother, and then you have a better feeling towards that animal. I feel that, oh, this mean horrible looking hyena. No, oh, hyena is a great mother. Everything else goes away. Similarly, you think of a person. This person need not have done something nice to you. They might have done to their own partner. Some other friends, they might have been nice to some other friend. They might have helped somebody else who was in distress. They might have, they do this with people who are dead. Somebody who is like a horrible, corrupt, and you tell that wise, that person had that wise, let us say, is like a extremely unpleasant person. But when that person dies, nobody, there is this general courtesy people have. Nobody talks bad about a person who is already dead, generally. So once the person is dead, all the known people who are bad mouthing that person behind their back and everywhere else, talking bad about them, once that person is dead, you call them to the dais to speak about this person. They will remember all the nice qualities. If they cannot remember anything, they will try to remember some light moments in the life, and try to brush aside and try to remember that person through some kind of a positive light, through some kind of a positive memory. And then, you don't feel bad thinking about that person. When the person's memory comes, you are not affected negatively. It has a pleasant effect on your mind, right? So we see that happening in public life, right? So same thing, that person, whoever has hurt you, towards whom you feel anger, revenge, or grudge, think about some positive quality of that person they have exhibited in action. Some nice thing they have done to somebody somewhere, anywhere. Try to look for that and try to see that person through that. Immediately, it allows you the space it reduces the intensity of this grudge or the anger or the hurt that you feel towards that person. You may be hurt, but that hurt will not turn into anger or grudge against that person. That force, that negative force of thought towards that person, that force will reduce. The moment the force of that negative feeling reduces, it will be easier to reconsider forgiveness at that level where that anger is coming unconsciously in you. So where the complete anger is coming, you completely accept that feeling, that anger, that grudge, you accept that. Stay with it completely. Don't do anything. And from that grudge, from the place inside you where you feel that negative emotion towards that person, you think of that. Try to remember that one good thing that the person did and try to feel. Immediately you will see the change in the way your emotional mind goes towards it. How the way you connect to that person emotionally, that will start changing. And then you can try to find the reasons to forgive that person. And then once you are able to bring that quality of forgiveness at the place from where the anger arises in you, it becomes easier. The next time the intensity will be much less, and next time it will be easier to tune to forgiveness right as the anger, right while the anger is coming up or the grudge is coming up. It becomes spontaneously possible to tune to that attitude of forgiveness. So you cultivate that attitude of forgiveness towards that memory of that person, what the person did towards the situation. You have to work on it. You have to cultivate that quality. And the more you do, the next time becomes easy. And over a period of time, you rewire that circuit. You rewire that memory. The way you relate to that memory becomes completely different. The moment that memory comes, you don't feel the grudge anymore. The moment that memory comes, along with the memory comes this attitude of forgiving that person, forgiving what they did. And there is no grudge or anger coming anymore. So when you experience that, it shows that the forgiveness as a practice you have really implemented in your system with respect to that person or that situation or that action or that event that caused hurt or anger in you or grudge in you, right? So these are two aspects of it. Consciously understanding very clearly that I have no choice with respect to forgiveness as a value, because it is a divine quality, and developing this divine quality becomes absolutely essential for my freedom and my peace of mind, my inner harmony and my spiritual growth. So I practice forgiveness. This is the conscious level. At all situations, no matter who did what, I am forgiving. And then comes implementation. Wherever it comes, a feeling or a thought or an emotion regarding a situation or an event or a person with anger and remorse and hurt and grudge or whatever, I try to rewire it according to the principles of the practice of forgiveness. And then the way I relate to that memory, to that event, will start changing. The memory is going to be there. What happened, happened. But the way what happened affects you, every time that comes in your memory, from your memory, it comes into your awareness. The way it affects you will completely change. And it will not be a grudge anymore. And over a period of time, it will not come back again, because it doesn't hold any ground. It doesn't hold any negative ground to keep tormenting you again. So you will not be tormented by that memory. Right? So that's how you do that. But one more addition, as I told you, every value practiced, divine value practice, not only must free you, but also protect you. It should not make you vulnerable and stupid and naive and helpless. So forgiving a person, this is my closing note. Forgiving a person does not mean you continue to allow that person to hurt you. This is extremely important. Forgiving a person doesn't mean you allow that person to hurt you again. You don't have to forget. You don't have to become vulnerable again. You have to take the precautions to make sure that person does not hurt you again. You make sure that you are not affected in the same way again. You do whatever protection is required for yourself. If needed, you cut off that person completely. You can forgive the person and completely cut off the person. That is totally okay. You can forgive that situation or that event or that community and completely cut off from them. That is totally okay. You just don't hold any grudge inside. That is very different from continuing to be vulnerable and continuing to allow that person to do whatever they did to you, continuing to be affected in the same way. That is not intelligent. That is not a divine quality. That is called carelessness and passivity. And that is not a divine quality because it does not help in your growth. It only makes you more vulnerable, and it does not, it destroys your path in life. It disturbs you from your path in life, and it hurts you. uh, Not to allow anything to hurt us is very important. So self defense is very important. So from that point of view, even after you forgive, you have to intelligently see what is the boundary between you and the person or the event or the situation that hurt you. And do not allow yourself, don't use forgiveness as an alibi for indulging in a pattern of relationship or something towards which you are helpless. Right? So I forgive the person, again the person hurts, again I forgive the person, again the person hurts. Then you say, oh, to forgive is my nature. And you start indulging in this, it's kind of emotional drama. You get hurt and then you forgive and then you feel good about it. So the people do that. That is that is not forgiveness is meant for. So once you forgive, then you don't forget. You remember that this situation is not okay, and you see the negative, you see the negative nature of that pattern, you see the limitation of that pattern for this, and you free yourself that from that pattern that hurts you again and again. Forgive, but don't forget. Do what it takes to protect you and take care of yourself. Yeah. So that would be my discussion on forgiveness today. um, Teach on how to introspect our own tamas. I have a question here. Nature in relation with, for example, if I forgive someone, then that makes me a better person than the other, and so I am always forgiving as long as it's comfortable with my own reality as a sattva person. Without reading this question, I answered it. I'm glad. Yes. So that becomes, makes I am always forgiving so long it's comfortable to see my own reality as a sattva person. That does not. That is a rajasic quality. So you are using the practice of the sensation of feeling that emotion of forgiving, the sensation of practicing the forgiving as a pleasure principle, and you are indulging in it and you are using it to develop a kind of a sattvic, I am a sattvic person kind of a ego. So that is a rajasic. So that is more binding. That is the asuric quality where you are uh, trying to boost your own ego as a very holier than thou person. So you understand that. When you understand that, you will stop doing that. And also it is important to see uh, this is a pattern. This is a pattern where you are constantly looking for people who are from, in compared to whom you feel better, and that gives you a kind of a reaffirmation about how you are better and feel good about yourself, but that stops your growth. No, you have to look at people who are better than yourself. That's what helps you to grow. So we have to understand that it is a rajasic quality of uh, ego gratification. It is not the practice of forgiveness. So this is a completely different problem altogether. And you have to see that the more you gratify your ego, the more you are strengthening your pattern and your bondage as an individual ego, and that will not allow you to investigate the nature or the true nature of self and to be really free, taste the real freedom. It's like a rich person. A really rich person doesn't need to tell himself, I am rich, I am rich. Doesn't show off or wear these expensive labels to show that I am rich. A truly rich person, this traditionally rich family, those people, they don't show off because they know they are rich. They don't need anybody else to recognize them. They're very chill about it. Only this newly rich will start showing off because they are insecure inside. No, if you're really a better person, you are really a sattvic person, you will not need any context for you to feel good about yourself. You are anyway feeling good about yourself, so you will not look at a context. The very fact that you are looking at a context to make you feel better about yourself says that you have some self doubt and you are not sure about yourself. So you'll have to investigate and discuss that. Okay. So with this, I will conclude the class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.